Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. Morosa spoke while flying. We just visited a rather affordable eatery. Next, we shall visit one of the top pleasure destinations in all of Huyang City. One of the top pleasure destinations in Huyang City? Where? Luo Feng inquired curiously. Dream Flower Tower, Morosa stated mysteriously. The myriad clan's cultivators usually conceal their true bodies to appear similar, but they actually are from various clans, Luo Feng said. Some don't even have genders, and their preferences can differ vastly. How can this Dream Flower Tower attract cultivators from all the myriad clans? Wait and see, Master. You'll understand soon, Morosa replied. As they conversed jovially, a magnificent complex of buildings emerged ahead. The complex covered a vast area and was enveloped in a formation. Numerous attendants could vaguely be seen flying around, their laughter, the sounds of musical instruments, and roars softly emanating from the area. There's the Dream Flower Tower ahead, Morosa remarked poignantly. Everything is perfect, except that it's expensive. A green-robed figure flew toward them to greet them, acting very humbly. It's an honor for Dream Flower Tower to host the Supreme. Inside Huyang City, the eternal true gods were the most powerful beings, as they were the sky of Huyang City. They each had their affairs, and it was only on rare occasions that Dream Flower Tower could host an eternal true god. This is my first visit, you take care of the arrangements, Luo Feng instructed. Yes, the green-robed attendant answered with a charming smile. I shall arrange for the most prestigious Orchid Star Hall for the Supreme. Leading the way, the attendant flew ahead with Luo Feng and Morosa following. The formation of the entire Dream Flower Tower was like a vast labyrinthine world. Morosa marveled, I've visited several times but never ventured this deep into Dream Flower Tower. It seems this place is only for truly honored guests. Suddenly, Luo Feng frowned slightly as he looked ahead. Being a perfect divine body, his sensing range was broad and sensitive. At that moment, he sensed something he disliked happening in a hall ahead. The spacious hall was gathering guests from the myriad clans, all of whom were drinking, talking, and laughing as they watched a life-and-death battle unfolding at the center of the hall. Two true gods were trying everything they could to kill their opponent. The center of the hall was bloody, with more than 10 bodies of true gods that had reverted to their original forms after death. Kill him for me. If you lose, your entire family will join you in death, an enraged green-robed guest roared. Songkyu Mountain, out of the 10 servants you dispatched for this ultimate battle, only this one remains, while I still have 3 servants yet to fight, another guest, with 8 arms, chuckled leisurely. It seems this bet will belong to me. It's not over yet. My guard has exceptional talents, capable of killing all your remaining servants, the green-robed guest retorted angrily. Is that so? The 8-armed guest raised his glass. The other guests were also exceedingly excited. Songkyu Mountain, I bet on your side to win, but your servant isn't doing well, only one left. My servant will win. He must win, said the green-robed guest, his face contorting fiercely. Meanwhile, the eyes of the 2 true gods fighting in the center grew increasingly frenzied, having no way out. Each side had sent 10 servants, and the battle wouldn't end until all from one side were dead. Who would willingly participate in such a cruel gamble? But they had no choice. I left my tribe and came to Huyang City in search of opportunities. I gained inheritance and grew stronger. But now, I am dying here. I wonder how my sister is doing in the tribe. A bald true god, clearly at a disadvantage and struggling to hold on, thought. Kill him, the green-robed guest shouted fiercely. And after that, kill the remaining 3. I will reward you handsomely. Amusing, said the assured 8-armed guest. At that moment, Luo Feng, Morosa, and the attendant flew past from a distance, and Luo Feng glanced over here briefly. The laws of Huyang City prohibited killing. However, considering the true god's pursuit of strength, some also craved battle. Therefore, as long as both parties signed a life-and-death contract, agreeing to fight voluntarily, Huyang City would not intervene. But Luo Feng understood at a glance that these true gods fighting in the center of the hall were clearly volunteered to fight. Buzz tilde tilde tilde. Luo Feng merely glanced once. An intangible aura then swept across all creatures in the grand hall. Originally reveling and betting guests suddenly felt targeted by an unimaginably terrifying being. The two true gods, originally fighting to the death, found their thoughts stalling and their minds blank under this terrifying aura. Almost all of these extraordinary guests were true gods of void space, yet the silence was deafening, with none daring to make a sound. Supreme, the flying green-robed attendant exclaimed in shock, halting immediately. I was feeling quite good today, Luo Feng said, a hint of coldness in his brow, speaking indifferently, but seeing this dirted my eyes, spoiling my mood. The green-robed attendant trembled in fear, hastily responding, it's an oversight on Dreamflower Tower's part. Such life and death betting is not allowed here. It's our mistake for spoiling the Supreme's mood. Tonight all your expenses will be on Dreamflower Tower. Let's go to Orchid Star Hall, Luo Feng said. Yes, the attendant resumed leading the way. Morosa glanced back at the hall from a distance, chuckling sinisterly, a bunch of brats. He then followed Luo Feng towards Orchid Star Hall. Inside the hall of the life and death bet. Everyone should leave quickly, the serving attendant urged urgently. That unfamiliar eternal true god apparently dislikes this life and death betting. Hurry up, everyone leave quickly, said Tsonkyu Mountain, the green-robed guest, immediately. You were lucky, said the eight-armed guest. He dared not linger and ran swiftly, disappearing quickly outside the hall with 3 guards escorting him. Other distinguished guests also hastily fled. The two true gods who had been fighting glanced at each other. Unexpectedly, we both escaped disaster, they said, collecting the bodies of their fallen comrades before also making a swift departure. Deep within the Dreamflower Tower was the core hall, Orchid Star Hall. Even though Dreamflower Tower is one of the top places for enjoyment in Huyang City, only occasionally does an eternal true god visit, Morosa said as he sat aside. Usually, the guests are primarily the true gods of void space, who indulge wildly while those attendants dare not stop those from influential clans. The green-robed attendant was helping to pour wine by his side. There is too much impurity in the world, how could I possibly manage it all? Luo Feng said leisurely, the air I dispersed was merely a warning to them. What if they ignore your warning, master? Asked Morosa. Then they are disrespecting me, slapping my face. Then their deaths can blame no one else, Luo Feng stated. Upon hearing this, Morosa hastily replied, Master is indeed kind-hearted to still give them a chance to live. The attending green-robed attendant silently trembled in his heart. Many distinguished guests in that hall had come from top influential families within Huyang City, and this strange eternal true god spoke of killing so easily. Could it have been just casual words? Luo Feng noticed a woman dressed in black walking into the hall from outside, who bowed slightly after entering. Supreme, the green-robed attendant helped introduce her. This is the direct disciple of our tower's master, musician Su Ya. Morosa also added, in the whole of Huyang City, very few eternal true gods excel in illusion technique, and only the Dreamflower Tower master is willing to perform illusions to entertain the guests. Luo Feng nodded. He had also practiced the 9 netherworlds and had just reached the level of eternal true god. Indeed, if illusion technique was not used for combat but for entertaining the masses, it could have remarkably effective results. Luo Feng was curious as to what kind of illusion technique the Dreamflower Tower used to attract the cultivators of the myriad clans. The woman in black sat by herself, waving her hand to make various musical instruments appear before her. As divine power was infused into the instruments, sounds of various instruments resonated immediately. Every instrument had the capacity to affect the spirit, and their combination instantly transported Luo Feng back to his past memories. His emotions began to heat up. Luo Feng seemed to see the scenario where many people on Earth bravely faced the golden-horned giant beast. Using musical instruments as a guide, the foundation of illusion technique influencing emotions. Thrilling. Exciting. Flaring up. For those of us who have cultivated for endless ages, our spirits become more and more tranquil, like the vast land, hardly fluctuating. It's very difficult to make my emotions violently fluctuate, Luo Feng had no resistance and let himself be influenced by the musical illusion voluntarily. But his spiritual will was too strong, at the pinnacle of the primal chaos level, and no ordinary illusion technique could shake it. It merely reminded Luo Feng of some memories from Earth. That period of passionate burning years. Right, within the Lai Yuan technique there are many secret techniques for cultivating spiritual will, including one called the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. As numerous surging memories from the past emerged, Luo Feng also recalled the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. The 7 emotions of heart refining technique actively amplifies the perceptivity of the spirit, making it very easy to be touched, joyful, furious, or sorrowful. Afterward, using these varied emotions as nourishment to refine the spiritual will. With that thought in mind, Luo Feng began to perform the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. As the method operated, his perceptivity of the spirit quickly amplified. The previous music and illusion technique that had only slightly resonated with Luo Feng now had an effect many times stronger in an instant. Boom! Luo Feng was momentarily transported back to the past. Sit down, close your eyes, remember, do not resist, Luo Feng said in a deep voice. Understood. Mohandasan, Ist, Tripati Singh, Jiao Yi, and Sokolov were sitting in their respective positions according to the 6-blade secret technique. They looked at each other, their faces revealing strange smiles. It was indeed the scene where they 6 sacrificed themselves against the golden-horned giant beast. A passionate thought surged in Luo Feng's heart, transcending life and death, with only the single thought of slaying the golden-horned giant beast. Under the aid of the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, this intense emotion made Luo Feng's eyes well up with tears. The purpose of the musical illusion technique was to serve the guests by invoking beneficial emotions. Passion burning, love, unyielding promises, brotherhood shared through life and death. After a while, the black-clad female musician stopped playing, and she was somewhat surprised by the expression of the unfamiliar eternal true God, as eternal true gods generally do not indulge so deeply in their illusion effects. Luo Feng's eyes faintly filled with tears as he slowly opened them. Good, very good, Luo Feng quietly said, excellent. Master. Morosa also felt that Luo Feng was too affected, considering it was just an illusion technique from the true god of void space. Luo Feng glanced at the woman in black and nodded, you may leave now. Musician Su Ye takes her leave. The black-clad musician Su Ye respectfully withdrew. Luo Feng paid no attention to Morosa, nor to the green-robed attendant on the side, and drank alone. In the huge hall, for a moment neither Morosa nor the green-robed attendant dared to make a sound. Luo Feng silently drank, his eyes deep. His will was currently enduring the honing of the 7 emotions of heart-refining technique. Just like steel needs to be forged and struck repeatedly, a creature needs to go through setback after setback to gradually grow. The same goes for the will. It needs to be tempered over and over again. The stronger the tempering, if the will does not collapse, it will become even stronger. The 7 emotions of heart refining technique is special as it tempers one's own will with various emotions. As the secret technique is activated, intense feelings surge and continuously assault the will. I have cultivated for too long, my emotions have become deeper and more restrained. Who would have thought that in this dream flower tower, I would return to the time when my emotions were most intense, reminisced Luo Feng. Within the Lai Yuan technique, there are various secret techniques for cultivating will. I had long chosen the Great Destruction Heart Refining technique to temper my will. I have already practiced it numerous times during my retreat of over an epoch. This secret technique has a high upper limit, while the 7 emotions of heart refining technique ultimately has its limits. After all, I cannot always be in the midst of emotional turmoil, otherwise, I would go mad, thought Luo Feng. The Great Destruction Heart Refining technique is about using the mood of utter destruction of all things to grind away at the will. What Luo Feng needed to do was to resist with his will. Because Morosa inherently mastered the destruction of the origin, Luo Feng could directly observe and even attempt to condense the mood of great destruction, making this secret technique highly effective. Destruction of the origin is on the same level of existence as the life origin of the primordial cosmos. Enslaving a sector beast to directly observe destruction of the origin, Luo Feng naturally chose the Great Destruction heart refining technique as his main practice. However, those memories are indeed beautiful. Luo Feng's emotions gradually stabilized. Is this musician Su Ya the one who most strongly affects emotions with illusion techniques from your dream flower tower? Suddenly asked Luo Feng. Upon hearing the question, the green-robed attendant promptly replied, "Our dream flower tower's strongest illusion techniques naturally come from the tower master, but she only occasionally hosts the 100 Flowers banquet, and only invited guests can participate. Among the other musicians, there are more than 10 who are close to musician Su Ya's level." Luo Feng nodded. "Let them come and play their music." "Very well," said the green-robed attendant, feeling a bit puzzled inside. Why would an eternal true god care so much about illusion techniques from a true god of void space level? In Huyang City, there were some eternal true gods who liked the Dream Flower Tower Master, and there were even a very few who were madly infatuated with her. But it was unheard of for an eternal true god to particularly fancy illusionists of the true god of void space level. But since Luo Feng had commanded it, the green-robed attendant naturally went to arrange it immediately. While Luo Feng was practicing the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, he continuously experienced the illusion techniques of these musicians. Although they all came from the same tradition, each had their own strengths. Some even created an illusory world, making Luo Feng a part of the story within that world. "Supreme One, are you satisfied with these musicians?" the green-robed attendant inquired. "Our Dream Flower Tower has several other interesting novelties. The musicians' illusion techniques are just one of them. Today, I have had my fill. I shall return another time," said Luo Feng as he got up. He glanced at a petite woman covered with leaves, who appeared a bit shy. Named Araya, she was a plant creature from the land of origin. Her music had a special charm that stirred Luo Feng's emotions the most intensely, far surpassing the other musicians. "This musician Araya is very good." Saying this, Luo Feng casually threw a grain of sand that seemed ordinary but instantly drew the gaze of many creatures present. "Cosmic sand," the green-robed attendant exclaimed, swiftly adding, "Supreme One, all expenses tonight at the Dream Flower Tower are on us, you need not." "I dislike taking unfair advantage," Luo Feng stated as he walked out. Morosa then swept up the nearby wine jug with a wave of his hand and quickly followed Luo Feng, not without glancing at the piece of cosmic sand left on the table. "Since my master has given it, you'd better accept it quickly." The green-robed attendant then picked up the cosmic sand, admiring the nascent universe contained within it and marveled. The night's expenses were actually just over 2,000 primal chaos crystals, but Luo Feng's piece of cosmic sand was worth far more. "Araya, the Supreme One is very pleased with your music, a reward of 10 primal chaos crystals," said the green-robed attendant. "Thank you, Steward Yulu," the plant creature Araya exclaimed joyfully, bowing in gratitude. The other musicians could only look on with envy. They only received the basic service fee, while Araya obviously won the favor of that eternal true god the most. Asterisk 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 asterisk. At the deepest part of the Dream Flower Tower's grand formation lay an unassuming little tower. A figure in a loose robe stood there, overlooking almost the entire Dream Flower Tower, taking everything in view. "Master," said the green-robed attendant respectfully, "that eternal true god has left, and he also paid with a cosmic sand." The Dream Flower Tower Master nodded slightly. "Tell me all his information in detail." "Yes," the green-robed attendant respectfully began. "His servant had visited us multiple times before, but this unfamiliar eternal true god was here for the first time. He seemed to only care about the music and illusion techniques at the Dream Flower Tower. Those musicians are all true gods of void space, so theoretically, their impact on an eternal true god should be very minimal," said the green-robed attendant. "But he seems to really enjoy it. Even to the point of shedding tears upon listening. It is indeed quite inconceivable," the green-robed attendant, who was also confused, added. "And from what he said, he will come again." With a light smile, the Dream Flower Tower Master said, "Every creature is unique. This unfamiliar eternal true god may just be more susceptible to emotional fluctuations. If those musicians' illusion techniques have such an influence on him, if the Tower Master were to take action personally," the green-robed attendant whispered, "he might develop an ardent obsession with the Tower Master. The Dream Flower Tower Master looked out the window. Over the eons, only two eternal true gods had developed an infatuation with her. After all, eternal true gods have extraordinary wills. Even if they get immersed temporarily, they would revert to their senses once the illusion was over. Very few would truly become enamored with her. When he comes next time, tell him that I will hold 100 flowers banquet in 10 days and invite him to attend, the Dream Flower Tower Master said softly. Yes, Tower Master, the green-robed attendant replied respectfully. A day in the land of origin is very long, and Luo Feng, over the following days, aside from cultivation, was taken by Morosa to various places for different types of consumption, broadening his horizons. When Luo Feng returned to the Dream Flower Tower, he also received an invitation. Supreme, the green-robed attendant greeted him enthusiastically. My Tower Master will host the 100 Flowers banquet in 10 days. Many eternal true gods from Huyang City will be invited, and the Tower Master has also invited the Supreme to attend. The Dream Flower Tower Master's 100 Flowers banquet. Luo Feng was surprised. In 10 days? Yes, in 10 days. It might be several eras before the Tower Master holds the next 100 Flowers banquet, said the green-robed attendant. Luo Feng smiled. Since I'm invited, I would be happy to attend and look forward to witnessing the Tower Master's mastery over illusion techniques. May I ask for the Supreme's honored name? The 100 Flowers banquet requires some preparations in advance, the green-robed attendant said. Luo Feng replied. The green-robed attendant made a point to remember this name firmly. This 100 Flowers banquet was actually for this very eternal true god Luo He before him. If Luo He became fervently enamored with the Dream Flower Tower Master, then her influence in Huyang City would naturally increase. On the outskirts of the primordial cosmos. The mountain-sitting guest was very reclusive, hardly interacting with other true gods. At the moment, he left his own small cosmos and headed toward Luo Feng's. It's only been over 10,000 eras since I left the land of origin, but time flows tens of thousands of times faster in the regions of the primordial cosmos. I have waited here for far too long. Throughout this elongated time, I've remained but a true god, and made no progress in strength, lamented the mountain-sitting guest, his ancient face tinged with desolation, as he endured the torment of time's passage. Thinking this, the mountain-sitting guest continued his journey towards Luo Feng's small cosmos, and finally, he could vaguely see that vast cosmos. The mountain-sitting guest paused, his eyes widening as he carefully observed Luo Feng's small cosmos. The rate of primal chaotic current absorption has slowed down significantly, said the mountain-sitting guest, somewhat excited. It looks like Luo Feng's godly body has finally grown to its limit. His small cosmos, spanning hundreds of billions of light-years in diameter, absorbs vast amounts of primal chaotic energy every moment. Having continued for so long, the accumulated total should put his godly body between 15 and 20 billion kilometers tall in the land of origin, calculated the mountain-sitting guest. As the former god King Jin, he was very accurate in estimating energy scales. Good. Excitement filled the mountain-sitting guest's eyes. With such a massive godly body, far surpassing his peers, once he becomes a godly king, even if 10 or 8 godly kings joined forces, they couldn't compare to him in terms of divine power advantage. With Luo Feng, there's hope for my revenge, thought the mountain-sitting guest, harboring endless hatred. Everything he valued most had been destroyed by the 3 sovereigns of Sha Kingdom. His sister-in-law and wife, his friends and brothers, his many fellow disciples. All were gone. From that day on, the mountain-sitting guest had only one thought: revenge. For this, he spared no expense. Everything he did in the primordial cosmos was for this single goal. Fortunately, he had cultivated Luo Feng. My strength is much weaker than that of Tian Kuan, the leader of the 3 sovereigns of Sha Kingdom. I only managed to escape death by relying on a secret treasure. A direct confrontation is impossible for me, the mountain-sitting guest was well aware. Only with Luo Feng's growth do I hold hope for vengeance. Just with the enormous advantage of his godly body, Luo Feng should be able to overwhelm the 3 sovereigns of Sha Kingdom, the mountain-sitting guest muttered to himself. After Luofeng set off on his reincarnation journey to the land of origin, the mountain-sitting guest continued to stay in the primordial cosmos region, intending to understand the divine power capacity of Luofeng's godly body. Now, the mountain-sitting guest was reassured. It's time to prepare for my reincarnation. I've been away from the land of origin far too long. The mountain-sitting guest immediately headed toward his own small cosmos and began his final preparations before his reincarnation attempt. This video will end here.